So the promised land. What is it? Why does it matter? Who cares? Who cares about the promised land? Everybody knows that the promised land was something that is in the Bible, where the children of Israel, they had been in slavery for 400 years underneath the oppression of the Egyptians, were miraculously and powerfully taken out of Egypt by God and taken through a wilderness for years, even generations, before God finally gave them a piece of property or an entire country that we know today as modern day Israel. So you might have wondered sometime, if you've ever heard the story, well, why did it take so many years? And I've heard a lot of different kinds of theories about why it took some time, but I personally believe the reason why it took so long to wander through the wilderness is because it's not just about one single person making it into the promised land. It is about an entire group of people learning to be in right relationship with God and learning to be in right relationship with each other. And that really took generations. Sometimes it can take many, many years, and sometimes it can take many, many generations. And of course, my last video, I spoke a lot about right relationships and how important they were. But I really wanted to speak specifically on the promised land and a little bit deeper on how that involves relationship. So if you imagine how different a whole group of people, a whole nation of people are, and how people have different opinions on how to get where they want to go and where they want to go and who they want to be and who God is, and they have different idols, they have different lusts, they have different ambitions. So you can imagine that it would take a very, very long time to bring a kind of unity where everyone is in right relationship with God and right relationship with each other. And of course, God was creating a really, really special people. The children of Israel weren't just to be a regular old country with a regular old nation. They were really supposed to be priests in this world. They were supposed to shine light in a very dark and pagan world, and they were really supposed to give the story of Jesus, and eventually they produced Jesus Christ, who of course shows us how to be reconciled with God and how to be reconciled with each other. So the promised land is not just a single person. A promised land usually involves, if you want to talk about yourself and apply it to your own personal life, you have to think about every single person that you are in relationship with. Your family, your church, your community, your friends, your neighbors, and all the surrounding region. So if you hope to make it to the promised land, you have to be in right relationship with them, and you have to be in right relationship with God. And, as you can imagine, that's not always so easy, because not only is it all about you and what you want to do, but it's also about them and how they react. But even if we just took the individual, one single person can have a very, very difficult time because humanity is quite competitive. We sort of almost assume that if we could just kick down every single person around us, and we're in this personal competition with those that are around us, that somehow we're going to get ahead and somehow we're going to make it to the promised land. Because humanity is longing for the promised land. And of course we think of the promised land as of safety and prosperity and a land of milk and honey. And we honestly, usually as humans, assume that the way of doing that is by climbing up on the dead bodies of those who are around us. And unfortunately, even if you look at any particular group on TV or in a church or anything else like that, what you're going to see is that every single person in that group has personal ambitions. And rather than focusing on the relationships that they have with the people around them, by nurturing them, by prioritizing them, by showing that each person in their life is really important and vital, it's quite the opposite. It is, how can I get rid of this person who I'm in competition with, rather than how can I see that this person succeed. And of course, there's also rightful fear, which is, yeah, I might really care about the person who's next to me, but if I help lift them up, they're probably going to stab me down in order to make it to their own ambitions. So even looking at the singular person who, um, who is really, really, truly just struggling with their own stuff, that is a big, big struggle. So that isn't even in comparison to if one person in a group decides, oh, I'm going to really put the best of the whole group before my own interests, that then you'll also have to struggle with the fact that it's not just about you being in right relationship with them, they also have to be in right relationship with you. And so anytime you're talking about the promised land, while I don't believe in elitism, I don't believe that we should ever choose people in our lives based on who we think are more successful or anything else like that. I personally believe that we should always pick the people that we really truly love. But we also have to understand that anytime we're in a relationship with anybody, if we're really hoping to go to the promised land and we're really hoping to take them with us, there's going to be some work, because each and every single person comes with their own challenges. But the more people that we have and the more we're able to kind of fight back the different issues that would stop that particular individual, the more we're able to be successful at that, the better the promised land will be, because every single person, it does not matter who they are. It doesn't matter who they are. They carry tremendous treasure and tremendous potential. And anytime, one of the reasons why the promised land is so wonderful is because it's not just about, like I said, it's not just about you and your success, but it's like the community's success that helps make everyone safer and more successful together. So you're talking about shared resources, whether it's on a seen or unseen level, and support and care and safety and protection and all kinds of things. So the promised land is a really, really special thing. But once again, it is not that easy to kind of grab a hold of. So whenever you're looking at a particular mate, or like a relationship to find someone to get married to, or you're looking for a friend, first of all, I personally think that love should always guide you. And whoever it is that you love the very most is the person who needs to be in your promised land and to be in your inner circle. But hopefully those people that you love have been able to fight back a certain amount of their own selfishness and their own idolatry, and are able to be, they've learned, they have the skills on how to be in right relationship. Because the less they know, the more difficult it's going to be to convince them to go with you to the promised land, and so on and so forth. So it's very important. So we're talking about the difficulty of the promised land. We're talking about all the different things about how important relationship is, and everything else like that. So it's definitely a community thing, and it's definitely about relationship. But once again, I really want to stress that if you're hoping to get to your own personal promised land where you can dominate the show, you can dominate other people, you can be just a little bit higher than them, and you want to take out the competition and so on and so forth, this is the very behavior that will either, how can I say this? If you choose to deal with the people in your life, whether it's your spouse or your family or your friends, and if you take on that particular attitude, then what you are saying basically is that, let's see here, either somebody's going to overcome you, and because God will always give the ultimate authority and power to the most trustworthy person and to the most loving person, or you won't make it at all. You just won't make it. So if you do make it, it'll be underneath the authority of somebody else, But if you do make it, then it's just not, yeah, it won't be so good. So anyway, this particular promised land is very, very important. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I will definitely take a pause right here. This to me is just the general thoughts of the promised land. The next video I want to make will definitely be taking up the challenges of the promised land and some of the enemies that keep you from taking territory in your promised land. So, right. I will talk to you guys later.